We have tried to prove conclusively that existence is an amoral state. We want to believe that there are no integrities that can interfere with an individual doing what he pleases. We want to have the feeling that we are not disobeying anything because there is nothing to disobey. We want to live as we please. We want to advance the various causes without interference. And little by little, these materialistic instincts and appetites are getting us deeper and deeper into trouble. Now, if at the end of the era of superstition, we came into a wonderful scientific enlightenment and everything has been better ever since, we might pause for a moment. But I think it is well to realize that as our idealism failed in our procedures of life, our materialism has moved us from one disaster into another. In the last 100 years of human civilization, while it has had the greatest materialistic enlightenment and has been preaching its code of materialism industriously, that this last 100 years is probably one of the most difficult and tragic the world has ever known. We've had many times before that were not good. But we have never before had the combination of the wisdom and experience that we now potentially possess and find ourselves using it as badly as we are using it today. So all of the advancements of science and education have not, generally speaking, protected the human being from his own mistakes. There's only one way in which he can be protected, and that is he's got to protect himself. And he's got to protect himself by not making the mistakes. Because it's as in the case of health. An individual who is disobedient to the laws of health long enough finally reaches the point where his condition is incurable. So it is not possible for us to continue without ultimately getting into serious trouble. We need desperately to remember the living universe and our responsibility to it. We do not have to worship the deity on the ceiling of the Sistine Chapel in Rome that is throwing out the sun in front and the moon behind. No one really believed in that. No one believed that God was an old gentleman. But everyone believed that the principle of wisdom, the sage, the great thinker, the grandfather, the wise one of old, they went to find the nearest thing they could use to picture something that they could not picture in its fullness. So deity became parent, and parent became like father or mother, and became a basis of an artistry with these interpretations. The Hindus do not believe that God has many arms and many heads in our sense of the word, but they do believe that every head in the world is part of the divine head, and every arm is one of the divine arms. Every living thing is part of an abstract divinity that is the fullness of all things. To get some of this back a little bit and get back to the idea that we live in a family rather than an institution. We more or less institutionalized human society. We are living in a combination of a technical laboratory and a reform school. We are being guarded against our own mistakes by the people who are responsible for making most of the mistakes. This is not what it is. We are not born to live in a laboratory. We are not born to live in a constant condition of punishment or retribution or anxiety. We are here to live together as a visible part of the great unity of life. The unity of life which is the whole world, the whole universe, and every part of it is alive. And every part of it is something we can reach. One of the mysteries of prayer that has been a problem for a long, long time is how God listens to all the prayers. Well, the answer is that there is a God in the person who is praying, and that is available to him at all times. It is the divine part of himself with which he must form an occasional union. He must experience the presence of a power greater than his objective personality. And the pure power of life within himself is one with the life of all that exists, the divine power infinitely diversified. Gradually building in a little of this romantic tissue into our way of life, the gradual recognition that there are wonderful stories that are going to come true, and that the time is going to come when idealism is going to help everyone to live happily ever after. When we begin to realize this and live more in the charm, in the quietude, the peace, the joy of faith, belief, and the security of inner conviction, things are going to be much better all around. We have gained a little something of intellectual brittleness by our present course of procedure, but we've lost the power to love in a simple, honest way. We have lost that power of love which makes us wish to give of our love. In the Canticles of Solomon the King, the Song of Solomon, the king, the wise king, describes love in three ways. First of all, he says in the opening part of the Canticles, "My beloved is mine." About halfway through the book, he says, "My beloved is mine, and I am my beloved's." And at the end of the book, he says simply, "I am my beloved's." The self has disappeared. And this is part of the experience that we all have to have. But until we find the simple love of each other, we're not going to be able to experience, define, or image the love of God correctly. Until we experience all these better virtues within ourselves, we're going to live in a universe with a blank sky above us, filled with stars that we hope to conquer someday, but when we conquer them, we will still be born, we will suffer, and we will die, because this is not the way it was intended to be. Instead of that, we've got to restore the intangible world of beauty within ourselves. We've got to have our own legends and our own lore, our own mysteries. We're going to have our own fantasies, our own great music, great poetry, great artistry. We must restore these values, or the lack of them will lock us forever in a materiality that has no existence except in ourselves. But we must release ourselves into the larger world, which is practically populated with nothing but deities, because every principle is there. Everything is great. And sometime we're going to reach up there and realize that among the deities which will exist in the world that was fashioned for it is humanity itself. We are of the gods, we are part of the gods, and it is our privilege and our duty to claim our heritage through right conduct. Only in this way and in these manners can we understand the symbolism. But it is a valid symbolism. It is a wonderful thing to realize that the ancients were wise enough to make everything alive, and that we have been foolish enough to believe that we could kill anything. The only thing that we can really destroy, even temporarily, is our own hope. And we have done that long enough. So in the spirit of the highest aspect of spiritual conviction, we must not only restore the kingdom of heaven, but we must also restore the garden of earth, which we were supposed to take care of, and to make a beautiful place for all human beings to live. And when we do that, according to the promise, then the Lord will be with us in the cool of the evening, and we shall know the whole mystery of life. It's a problem of fantasy, perhaps, but fantasy that is stronger than life or death, fantasy that is eternal.